Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for a Commander video. Hold on, my phone's ringing. Hello? Well, hello, former President Barack Obama. Wait, you mean Lutri is banned in Commander? So this is actually a legacy video? Aw, shit. So you heard it, folks. Today we are playing an Otter in Legacy, and its companion condition essentially makes it so that we are playing Commander, but in Legacy. Each non-land card in our starting deck has to have a different name. So we can build a reasonable mana base with like normal fetches and duels, but beyond that, well, it's Commander time. One of everything else. Now, Lutri has Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So essentially, we have like a dual caster mage sort of situation, just chilling in our sideboard, ready for us to go. And we are going to have quite a bit of mana in this deck list as time goes on, so this is sort of our flood insurance. We are essentially going to play good, honest Grixis Control magic until we can maybe do something broken with the Otter. And I think this is one of those times, since we're a single card deck list, I just need the whole deck on screen here. Now, today's video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., Moxfield.com, as well as Eminence Gaming. And remember, if you need paper magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. What we've got on screen here is essentially a history of solid Grixis cards, some of them quite old, others of them quite new. And in my mind, building like a Tainted Pact deck list or a Lutri deck list is basically building a trade binder deck. And by that, I mean pick a pile of 60 cards that you like, throw them into a deck list, and it's probably going to get the job done as long as you build something that is reasonable. The advantage of deck lists like these is that they get to play a large number of powerful but slightly different effects. So while you're never going to be as consistent as at answering a specific problem as a more optimal deck list, you get a wide range of things and your opponent doesn't know what they have to play around. Like, you're playing against a combo deck. You're packing Flusterstorm, Minor Misstep, Spell Pierce, Stifle, Duress, Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Dress Down if that one's relevant versus something like Doomsday, Negate, Snapcaster Mage, Counterspell, and I could keep going, right? So the advantage of a deck like this is you have that rogue advantage where your opponent is not going to be able to deduce at any given time exactly what is in your hand. That is going to be incredibly difficult to do. The downside is, if you're ever looking for a specific card as an out to a situation, or you're looking for a specific threat, you're not going to be very likely to find that. So it's not like the companion stuff here is a strict upside, it is a deck building restriction. The good news is we can flash back to a much, much older era of Legacy where Kess Dissident Mage was playable and actively good, and we can pretend like this is a reasonable choice to have in our deck list. We are generally speaking a control deck. There are some combos that we can come across in the deck list. You know, for example, we can prevent our opponents from drawing cards with something like Narset or Hullbreacher, and then plus a Dak Faden targeting our opponent. Like, we have some neat options in here, but whether or not we will do anything consistently, you know, that's gonna be the question today. So, Alex, thank you very much for submitting this beautiful pile, and hopefully I can pilot it pretty well, and we can otter some people. Let's battle. Before we get started here, I just want to say the donation queue is currently very light, so if you have a deck you want to see on the channel, especially if it contains some new cards, this is an absolutely great time to do a donation deck list, and as always, all that information is available on my website, and it's linked in the video description as well. We've got a regular old Pokemon battle going on here as my opponent has revealed a Yorion. I'm going to go ahead and make a land drop passing, and we're probably going to very aggressively use this Flusterstorm on, like, literally anything that I can grab, as I'm not really expecting it to do a ton of work here in the matchup. Assuming that this is some fair blue pile. Let's do a Vulcan pass. Kess is sweet. I will need some sort of cantrip or something to get, like, maximum value out of it. But things are fine. This is Beans. Flusterstorm does not counter Beans. Damn it, Beans. Sure. I immediately feel behind. You're late. Alright. We're just passing. I don't want to put the Lutri into my hand yet. I want to hold up options. Alright, I always forget. Is this my graveyard? Okay, these are both its controllers. Sure. It's a Fairy Time Raveler. Not counterable by Drown in the Lock right now. Can't Shouldered Edict on my opponent's turn. I'm going to have to wait till my own turn, unfortunately. And they're just going to take the card immediately. Reasonable. Force of Will is late to the party. Please sacrifice a Planeswalker. Bam. And we don't get to counter back to protect it if my opponent wants to fight over it. Kind of sucks that I haven't had any sort of other early creature that my opponent would have to burn removal on. My Kess isn't super... not really worth using a counterspell on. Unless it was something like a Force of Negation that could exile that. But that's really damn good. No. No. Alright, let's get some duels. Let's do like a C and a Volk. I just don't think I can let these resolve for the game going long, which it's going to do, because like when I play this Kess, it's not likely to be protected. At least not protected well. Is this during each of your turns? Not each turn. Relevant difference here. So we'll attempt to Kess. I can protect it with a Fluster or Force of Will, but like the stuff in my graveyard isn't even that good right now. Alright, opponent's forcing. Which cantrips? I'm going to say no. They still get to recoup one of the cards. Up the Beanstalk is so good. Now the issue is that like this creature can just eat a Swords to Plowshares on this turn, and I don't have Force of Will protection for it anymore. Or Leyline Binding, yep. Rough. So we're in really bad shape. An Uro or a 4th Aerlingas or something like that is going to tear me up. My opponent has an engine going, and I just don't. And with fewer copies of cards like Brainstorm existing in my deck list, I am less equipped to put my situational cards back than my opponent, putting me at a huge disadvantage in blue mirrors. Sure. This does have Flash. I guess I will just like bolt my opponent Lutri bolt on my opponent's end step. Sure. And Lutri's trigger is on ETB, not on cast, notably. So if my opponent counters, it's just ugly. Alright, that's a Yorion to hand, sure. So, Lightning Bolt. Target you. Paying red with this. Hold priority. Cast Lutri. What is my opponent waiting to pay costs on? Respectfully. Respectfully. Damn it. Matthias! Fucking rude. Fucking rude and disrespectful to my Otter that you would do something like this. Gamble is interesting. I have literal no idea what I would gamble for. Alright. In addition to shutting off my Otter's ability, you now dare to attempt to remove my Otter? Fuck. This is painful, folks. I'm just gonna let it happen. I have one Force of Will in my deck. I don't think that's the thing I use it on. Alright. Let's gamble for something. Oh, these are so many cards. Something like Faerie Mastermind is conceptually cool. But like grabbing a Faerie Mastermind or Hullbreacher just feels like it gets answered. Maybe I go for Palantir. It's not a creature, it doesn't just eat it to a Swords to Plowshares instantly. I don't hate it. Let's try it. Narset's not crazy either, actually. Let's do Narset. I got rid of my Force of Will. Try to stop the drawing nonsense. Opponent's got 8 cards, yeah. Okay. We are probably about at the point where I can realistically concede. Like, my opponent has 7 cards in hand, has Life from the Loam, so they can never miss a land drop unless they want to. A 4th Aerlingus is going to just instantly destroy me. They've got Force of Will on standby, and their engine is online. Okay, yeah, there's a double cantripping Yorion that can then blink up the Beanstalk twice to draw 2 more cards. I'm comfortable conceding here. The game's not over. Like, I can kill the Yorion, but I'm buried and I'm never coming back from this. All right, what am I doing conceptually with my sideboard? Red Elemental Blast seems fine. An extra Planeswalker seems fine. Don't think I'm going to go this route here. Spell Snare for Beans seems okay. I might end up boarding this in. Let's figure out what I don't want. My own dress downs don't seem great. I don't know that I'm ever going to have Toxic Deluge at exactly the right time to like hit 4th Aerlingus before it kills me. Like, that window is very small in terms of both time and life total for that to work. I think I'm going to get rid of Gamble. I don't want to go down a card here if I don't have to. The Edicts aren't great. I can hit Planeswalkers, which is relevant. Minor Misstep is like a little mid. Let's try this. But like we know from the get-go that we are fighting an uphill battle today. This is a single land that the mana's not quite smooth for. It has multiple things which tax the graveyard in the forms of Grim Lavamancer and Murktide Regent. This is sort of like Island Ponder Keep, if you squint at it really hard. I think I'm just going to ship this. Stifle, Snapcaster Stifle is, I guess, a real plan. Okay. All right. This is kind of messed up. No fetch. I am just going to make some land drops. All right. We will stifle that. Good stuff. I think I'm just going to brainstorm end of turn. Like, my brainstorm's relatively valuable, but I just kind of want to know what's coming. Garbage. Garbage is the answer for what's coming. Understood. I've got some control aspects going. Like, Snapcaster Stifle is pretty legit. I think I let that happen and attempt to go after the land that follows this up. It's a wasteland. This is some sicko shit right here. Target Stifle. Stifle the wasteland. And Stifle has successfully destroyed 2 of my opponent's lands. Although they tried to destroy 1 of my lands first, to be fair. Alright, so after this turn, our draws are live again, and I think I'm supposed to hold up Negate and Flusterstorm rather than put the Otter into my hand. Alright, we're chilling. Grim Lavamancer. Graveyard not too big right now. How do we feel about that? Am I just negating that or flustering that for tempo reasons? My hand's weak. Like, really weak. 2 dead cards. I think I'm going to fluster that and hold up Negate. Ooh. Oh, a Veil of Summer. It's awkward. I could negate that. Keep the Snapcaster Mage alive. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. It just feels bad. Alright. I just think it's more important for me to answer, you know, a Teferi or whatever that my opponent could throw down in this turn cycle. Ooh, stuck on lands. Sure. So I'll throw down Grim Lavamancer while holding up Negate. No guarantee that this is sticking around either, though. Yeah, and I don't think I'm supposed to counter that. We'll hopefully be able to protect Dark Confidant a little bit later on. No. No. Absolutely not. Okay, there's another color. Let's fetch. I think I like the basic here. I no longer have the counter spell for protecting this, though. We can maybe attempt Otter Lightning Bolt again. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awkward. I think we're trying to dodge. I can technically Force of Negation if it is an emergency. Okay, there's third land drop. Okay. All right. Hand is looking reasonable. We can attempt Lutri nonsense. Maybe not right now. It feels like we're about to have a counter war. Yeah, I think I just say no. I could let it happen. Like, I could just use this as an opportunity to Lightning Bolt Lutri, Lightning Bolt. Maybe I'm just never beating my opponent as this game goes long, and I just try to resolve Lutri this turn and then have Force and Red Elemental Blast afterwards. Okay, I buy that. But I do it end of turn, so sorcery speed removal can't snag Lutri, I guess. Oh, hold on, I need to hold priority. Lightning Bolt, hold priority, and Otter. Blue Elemental Blast. Bad things happen to good people. Yep. We tried to force a window there where we hoped Lutri resolved, and my opponent tried to answer it later, and it just did not resolve. We've still got some fight left in us, but we just don't have an engine like my opponent's deck does with Up the Beanstalk and Yorion. I let it resolve this time. I have to blast it when it comes back later, or Sudden Edict it when it comes back later. It kind of feels like my opponent's deck is just better in all areas. I've already used my Brainstorm, so I guess I'm making this land drop. Yeah, these control mirrors are gonna be brutal. I don't know what I'm... Like, I don't realistically know how I'm supposed to win. My companion is worse, my interaction is worse, my engine is non-existent. I guess I'm happy that that's not being a draw 3. So there's a Valk in hand now. I'm gonna just Edict this turn cycle. I've got more removal than I do counter spells. Like, I would like to use these counter spells to protect something else that I end up doing. They don't have all that many win conditions. That'll do. That will do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thick Murktide Regent. 2 counter spells backing it up. Hopefully that's good. The Red Elemental Blast doesn't counter some stuff, though, which is a bit of a problem. I have to Force of Negation that one, and then Red Elemental Blast won't answer something like a Leyline Binding. Yeah. Like, it's turn 12, and I'm technically still in the game, but I am just woefully behind here. No. But I just hate this. Like, all of this just sucks, because if I don't get rid of this, it can just bounce up the beanstalk and represent so much card advantage, because I just cannot... Oh, wow, okay. Because I just cannot pressure this Planeswalker right now. But, like, Uro is just coming if I counter this, and if I counter Uro, it just comes back, yeah. I'm going to take one more draw step, and I think if I don't put a threat on the board in this turn cycle, like, I just throw in the towel. It's just not happening. The One Ring. Yeah, we can basically concede to that. That's close to unbeatable here. Like, Grixis just doesn't answer indestructible artifacts very well. Yeah, I am comfortable conceding here. Never winning that matchup. Today's video is sponsored by Eminence Gaming. They have run a ton of tournaments at this point, and you might know them from the competitive EDH scene, but their command tower software can be used for all sorts of different formats. It's really easy. You can even just give your players a QR code in order to get them all of their pairings and everything that they can need. I really love this software as a player, and you should talk to your stores about it. Consider using it. It's cool. We have a reasonable looking opening hand here. I'm not going to counter something like a Ponder in the Dark. The mana's a little tough with this hand in terms of like what land does this polluted delta represent. JK got a lot easier. If I always play Hymn to Turok on turn 2, which I think I plan on doing, this can now be a bad lands. And I can throw out Grim Lavamancer. And honestly, we're just hoping this is a distraction. Like, I would love for this to eat a removal spell. It does not, at least not immediately. Send this on in there. Opponent's at 19. I should have used Underground Sea instead of Polluted Delta here. Just FYI. Because I always want Underground Sea with this land, and I don't think the two things in graveyard immediately is more important than a shuffle off the Ponder. Okay, Chrome Mox Infernal Tutor. We're playing against something unfair. You know, something in that ant ballpark. I have Counterspell and Force of Negation. I technically have a clock in play. And we have a weird bit of overlapping interaction. This is the sort of matchup that I think I would be excited to play while playing this deck list. Because a lot of times, being in a good spot with Ant means figuring out what interaction your opponent can have and just like cutting a path through. And that is going to be tough for my opponent to do. Oh, Murktide Region is super cool as well. Yeah, we're going to hold up all our mana here. And intend on eating with Grim Lavamancer end of turn, and casting a Brainstorm if my opponent does not do anything. Sure. Cast Brainstorm. Nice. I'm probably least interested in the Ponder, honestly. Then let's eat some stuff. Put my opponent to 16. Play a fetch land. Let's attempt a Duress. Veil of Summer is a thing that exists within my opponent's deck list. We will take a Cabal Ritual here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's put the pedal to the metal here. It's a little awkward drawing two different things that care about the graveyard at the same time. But I think this is the spot that I just resolve a threat. Like, we have smelled the blood in the water. I have my opponent on kind of a 2-turn clock. It's not literally a 2-turn clock, but it's really close to that. Because once this 7 damage goes through, I'm presenting lethal if my opponent fetches. So, like, this land is shut off, and I also just have a Snapcaster Mage that I can flash in. So, just naked Snapcaster. Good, honest magic. Okay, cool. So what sort of combo hate do I have? Less than I would expect, honestly. Spell Snare is okay, Test of Talents is okay, Spellbomb technically does some stuff and might be worth playing. And then you get into those weird, like, Plague Engineer, is it Staticaster tier of cards. Blood Moon can technically do some stuff. I don't know that I want to go that route. I don't know that I want to go the Fairy route or the Surgical route either. I guess there's this. There's a lot of stuff in tier 2. So let's do this as what cards don't I want. I'm not excited about Cling to Dust. I'm not excited about the risk of Gamble here. Not excited about Dress Down. Not excited about Edicts. I probably don't want Deluge. Goblins are a thing that can occasionally happen, but we're really trying to stop that from happening, period. So that gets me kind of the tier 1 cards. Then I can start. I can play a couple of outs to goblins, but I can do so in a way that potentially, like, has other points of toughness and power. Surgical's okay. I think since my early game mana requirements are so tough, I don't want this. Play one of these. One of the unfortunate things is that, like, since I am in Grixis colors, a lot of my hate still gets caught up by Veil of Summer. So that can just be my opponent's primary way to sideboard against what I'm doing. Or they might have had him in the main deck, honestly. Hand's only okay. I might lose in keeping this hand, but like Thoughtseize, Snapcaster, Thoughtseize is a clear plan. There's an Abrupt Decay, sure. Alright. Are you just ad-nausing on 1? Yeah, you are ad-nausing on 1. My opponent has flipped all the way down to 4 life, and they have stopped at this point. They can play out a couple copies of Lion's Eye Diamond. Got it. This is potentially just past the turn, discard like 17 cards. Sorry, 12 cards. Oh, there was no land drop yet. Yeah, I think we're discarding and holding up Veil of Summer. Alright, my opponent has discarded, so everything above Ad-Naus is things that they discarded. Tendrils, Tutor, Thoughtseize, Delta, Carpet, Delta, Carpet, Thoughtseize, Misty, Island, Guy as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got it. So my turn 1 Thoughtseize play is now not great. I might need to do it anyway so that I can brainstorm into a counterspell the following turn if my opponent needs to set up a multi-turn line. If I get bad lands and I draw a blue-blue card, I can't actually cast it. So I think I'm getting Underground Sea and temporarily ignoring red mana. Maybe that's not true, though, because like just playing Vial Smasher basically kills my opponent. Yeah. So I don't know whether or not my opponent is playing multiple copies of Gaia's Will, and that's kind of a huge deal here. Yeah, no, that's fine. We were planning on trading with that. Because if they play multiple copies of Gaia's Will, things are immediately messy and I die. The Thoughtseize is fine. Opponent's at 2. But I assume this is just Infernal Tutor, crack both LEDs, cast Beseech the Mirror, and do something unfair. If there's a second copy of Gaia's Will, I am instantly just dead. Alright, so there's Beseech. There is a second copy of Gaia's Will. So now my opponent can just like play their lands and spells from their graveyard. So Petal, Dark Writ, LED is already 5 additional Storm Count. They can Chrome Mox in addition to that. And they can crack the LEDs as if they're Black Lotus to cast the things in the graveyard. They can also just Beseech again if they'd like. Yeah, there's the Tendrils. No need to get cute about it. GG. When I'm on the play, things like Cling to Dust and Meltdown become slightly more valuable. I'm just like not the most excited about them. Maybe I need this stuff. This still destroys an artifact. Maybe Lightning Bolt out. Its use cases are kind of narrow. Maybe something like Dak Faden is just too slow. This is a single land with no cantrip. Auto mulligan. I would be throwing Grim Lavamancer back with this hand. And this is essentially, can I brainstorm into something that makes this hand keepable? Oh, I don't love it. Like, one of the problems with playing this deck list is that we are a singleton deck list that is trying to create resiliency by having, or redundancy rather, by having overlapping cards. But that means you're not very good at finding specific cards when you need them. These are fine. Let's bury Prismari Command and then redraw some other card. So I don't think I want the Prismari Command. The question is, do I take a random redraw off Baleful Strix or do I just ponder? I think I would like to ponder and look for some interaction. I think I am going to look at 4 fresh cards. So let's do this. Thoughtseize and Spellbomb. Those are hits. Those do things. Bury the land. It's so likely my opponent has Veil here. I put Thoughtseize on top. And play the Spell Bomb, despite some awkwardness with Surgical Extraction here. This just kind of telegraphs that my opponent needs to Natural Storm, though, which I'm not the biggest fan of, given that I have 2 different pieces of Graveyard Hate. Yeah, we're just playing Draw Go. I don't think I'm Thoughtseizing here. I think holding up Hullbreacher is just better. Alright, sure. Cast a Brainstorm. I dare you. I double dare you. Abrupt Decay on the Spell Bomb. Awkward. I cash it in for a card. I can't Hullbreacher. I'm just going to take 1 card out of your graveyard and not pay for this. And this way I have Hullbreacher available as interaction as well as technically Surgical Extraction. Alright, opponent's chilling. This does give them an opportunity to brainstorm. No, okay, cool. Let's go to Punchies then. Send them. Alright, opponent's at 16. At this point, I am comfortable Thoughtseizing my opponent. If they draw a card with Veil of Summer, they don't. Yeah, that's fine. That counters, but then I get a treasure. I am comfortable taking the redraw here. I have some 1 mana counter spells I could draw that could be relevant. Okay. Hullbreacher is a soft hate card in this matchup. It stops some stuff, but does not actually interrupt any of the core combo attempt portion. So I basically just have Surgical versus a real combo attempt. Is it happening? Maybe. My opponent reveals Dark Ritual. Okay. They are still in the setup phase. Got it. What does this bounce again? Artifact, creature, enchantment. Understood. So I have 4 onboard damage, putting my opponent to 11. I can hold up an Ottawara bounce, or I can just put the Otter into my hand. I think putting the Otter into my hand is better. I've already played a land. I've already played that. Yeah. Okay. We still have Surgical for a Beseech-based line. 4 black in pool. That is a Beseech without Bargain, so that is just a tutor. There are unfortunately 2 different tutors in my graveyard, so the Surgical Extraction loses a little bit of oomph, but I might be able to just like Surgical Extraction, Lutri, Surgical Extraction, and rip both out of the deck at end of turn. That feels like a pretty reasonable line. It's weird. I think that's where we're at. All right. Surgical Extraction. Target Beseech the Mirror. Paying life. Holding priority. Using the treasure. Casting Lutri. Change targets to Infernal Tutor. All right. Tutor out, tutor out, tutor out, tutor out. Okay. Now rip the Beseech the Mirrors out of my opponent's deck list. They have to naturally draw empty or tendrils. Good stuff. Lutri did a thing, folks. Lutri did a thing. This hits my opponent for 7, leaving them on a 2-turn clock. Ottawara is 3 to activate. I still have lethal on board if my opponent removes one of my things. I think I just hold up the Ottawara mana and don't play the Bitterblossom. Heyo, we did it. Okay, I've kept my opening hand here, which is going to be pretty bad versus Wasteland, because this is going to be an Underground Sea to represent Flusterstorm and Dark Confidant. We're also going to need a 3rd mana source, but like we have multiple plays that we can do on 2 mana with Dark Confidant and Petty Theft as well. So hopefully things just kind of go smoothly, and my opponent's not playing a Wasteland deck. Here we go. My mana's going to be tight this game, so I will probably like very aggressively just Flusterstorm a cantrip this game. Yeah. Let's grab Underground Sea. Note that I probably don't make this play if I have a 3rd land drop, because I'm more likely to hit a point where I can do more plays and then use Flusterstorm to back up a more relevant play later on, like this. You're gonna fluster me back? Now just fetching another island? Sure. Are you high-tiding over there? Is that what's happening? 2 basic islands. I would really like this Bob to live and help find my 3rd land drop, because holy shit, I have, like, just banger of Grixis cards to play. Not high tide. Fuck. Okay. File Smasher the Fierce. Get in there. Alright, opponent's card was pretty good. I have a Sheoldred's Edict or a Brazen Borrower to attempt to answer a Grizzlebrand. Hopefully I just find like a counterspell off Dark Confidant now. Counterspell and land, please. Fuck you, Bob! 7? What have I done to you? Good lord. Alright. Alright. Let's, I guess, attempt to Edict this. Sacrifice a non-token creature, please. I'll do 2 damage to my opponent. File Smasher is sweet. Opponent draws 7 in response. Would you like to draw 7 more? Did you miss? Draw 7 more, miss. Miss a second time, it resolves. Damn. There's the Force of Will. File Smasher deals 2 damage. We're probably dead. I don't get to attack here. Even if my opponent can't combo a second time, life's bad. So I guess the question is, like, what exactly sort of deck are they playing? They could be doing some Reanimator stuff as well. Alright, F6, you now know what's going on. Like, they could just have some black cards like Limdual's Vault to help them assemble their combo. There's a few different ways this sort of thing can go. There's a fetch land to shuffle. Maybe I just get to, like, dome my opponent with Murktide Regent and kill them. Like, off of File Smasher. Wouldn't that be cool? The dream is dead. Tachi is a meanie face. I guess it's not unfathomable that I somehow kill my opponent. Still. Like, they're only at 11. Alright, Bob, don't do me dirty. Alright, cool. Do I have a 1 mana out to a Grizzlebrand in my Grixis deck? No. Can I kill my opponent with Lightning Bolt, though? That's a different story. 1 damage short. Let's fetch. Grab Bulk and some other thing. Grab another, like, Underground Sea. Cast Narset. 3 damage to my opponent. You're at 8. Minus Narset. What if I cast a Spell Pierce or a Stifle on my opponent on their turn? I deal 4. That's not enough. Then they've got me. But it was tight. GG. So, is my opponent on Reanimator nonsense, or is it Limdual's Vault stuff? Either way, Blast, maybe not Spell Snare, Test of Talents, and Surgical still probably come in either way. And Spellbomb is a thing that's on the fence. And I guess Faerie. What don't I want? I don't think I'm the biggest fan of Gamble, especially when there's some uncertainty about what my opponent is doing. Toxic Deluge for 7 life doesn't look hot. It may be a thing that I'm doing. Prismari Command can come out for sure. Grim Lavamancer's not exactly strong. And then it's like, this stuff, do I want to hedge against a graveyard? I kind of think I'm hoping to just win the game where I'm on the play and then adjust my sideboard as is necessary. This is fine. It's a little tough to play. I think I'm fetching Underground Sea, finding and attempting to find either more interaction or a black source off of Ponder. That seems reasonable. Ponder time. Yes, these are reasonable Magic the Gathering cards. I think I'm going to bury Sudden Edict, hide Force of Negation, immediately draw Underground Sea. I don't think I'm hedging against a turn 1 combo attempt with this opponent, given that like their deck has things like Preordain in it. It feels like it's not meant to go as fast as possible. Could be wrong, like could die, but it feels unlikely. No shuffle off the ponder. So I believe my first play here is just the Hymn to Turok, because I can do this while holding up Force of Negation as an additional source of interaction. If my opponent forces, I still get 2 cards here. May not be the 2 cards that I want, though. Ooh, that's spooky. That's the show and tell, which means I have to pitch the Faerie Mastermind here in order to counter this. All right. Man, that Faerie Mastermind was kind of important to the stuff that I had going on. My Culligan's Command isn't super strong here. Ooh, no. Hate that. This means that my Red Elemental Blast is not super strong here. This K command is not great. I think it's just discard, deal 2 damage, move on with my life. Discard, 2 damage. Like, I just gotta put the pedal to the metal here, because I'm terrified. My opponent discards Veil of Summer because they don't have the right colors. That's an awkward draw. That misses a lot of stuff. But okay. Oh. Good stuff. Now we're hoping to put the Otter into my hand and do some gross stuff. Narset? Narset's not bad, although notably these are not draws. I think tapping out for this is better than tapping out to put the Otter into my hand, even though this one doesn't actually reduce my opponent's life total at all. Palantir? Okay. Reasonable. We're kind of remaining in this awkward tap-out territory versus my opponent, though, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I guess I would like Thoughtseize specifically to take the Omniscience out of my opponent's hand. The Omniscience is spooky. But, let's look at some cards. Dress Down. Okay. That's kind of neat. What am I doing with my life from here? Probably Brainstorm. Try to hit a land drop. Fail. Fail hard. The Boseiju makes this all very awkward. I think I bury Palantir. Put a counterspell of some kind on top. Call it a turn. Snapcaster Inquisition doesn't take this, and I don't have 4 mana for Snapcaster Hymn. That's the 4th mana. This spell is now uncounterable. So I put in Dress Down off the show and tell, I think, is how I want to handle this. This allows me to draw a card. I could have, shit, I should have Red Elemental blasted the Omniscience in response to my own trigger there. I was thinking about removing the Atraxa. You have Hexproof. Now kill Omniscience. I think I messed up and my opponent punted it right back to me. Yeah, so let's take out the Omniscience now. Force of Will, not a problem. Flusterstorm. Yeah, I messed that one up. My opponent messed it up worse. Accordingly, I win. Alright, I did not make any sideboarding changes for this game. I still don't have the best read on my opponent's black. It may just be that they're playing something like just Bowmasters or something like that in an otherwise mono-blue deck list. Fluster's okay. But this is a very slow hand. I think I'm just going to ship this one. This is an awkward counterspell, but a counterspell. A way to answer a creature that slips through. This is fine. I think I get rid of Toxic Deluge and keep the Cling to Dust, just so I can just literally cycle a card. Sure. Murktide Regent might give this hand some real texture. We're staring at each other. There's no non-creature, or sorry, no, yeah. Or no, I can exile a land to draw a card. That's fine. We will just do that. Grab Underground Sea, maybe? Fling to the dust? Finding Brainstorm is a very reasonable thing to do with my time. I don't think I fire it off, though. I'm maybe not even supposed to play this land. That's a Brainstorm. I could do this, but as that is currently my only counterspell, I don't think I'm going to mess around with that. Alright, no end of turn fetch to clear, so they like the cards that they have, which is a scary thing. I guess at this point I will fire off the Brainstorm and try to fix this hand. The optative word there being try. This is not great. I am very much not ready for Kess yet. Let's throw back a land and Kess, and then go ahead and fetch a Badlands. I want to hedge for drawing specifically the black pips of my one of Hymn to Turok. Or do I want triple blue? Triple blue kind of slaps. Okay. Let's ponder. Stifle Thoughtseize. And I wish I could, like, I wish this was a Brainstorm. Like, Stifle and Thoughtseize at the same time would be quite strong. Bulk is the bottom card. It gets harder from there. I kind of want to stifle that Misty Rainforest. I think I'm going to try that. No shuffle. Play land drop. Pass. Yeah. And then we just kind of hope that my opponent doesn't go for it immediately while my counter magic is dropped. Another Misty. Alright, we've made it through another turn cycle. And now we get to draw that Thoughtseize. This game, Magic the Gathering, is tough. Because I can, like, play Murktide Regent while holding up Test of Talents. I don't think I do that. I think it is time to go for the Thoughtseize. Alright, we're getting a response. It's a Veil of Summer. I think this is worth Test of Talents. Like, I just make Veil of Summer never an issue for the rest of this match, and then try to take something like a Show and Tell. I think this is my spot. We're fighting. Okay, yeah. So, Veil, Veil, Veil. What's the black for? Oh, literally just discard. Any weird stuff? Not really. Okay. So I am going to take your Show and Tell, because that slows you down. And I've already played a land, right? Yeah, I've already played a land. My opponent will Intuition for their copies of Show and Tell, probably at my end step. And I have two different ways currently to deal with a creature. So I think I'm doing okay. Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's annoying. Okay. Because that gives them two different attempts. I didn't have my Cling to Dust available. I need 4 mana for that. So, land drop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a Murktide Regent. Got a meaningful clock. And now the big question is, like, is my opponent putting in the Emrakul or Atraxa? I think they're supposed to put in the Atraxa. Oh shit, they're not going for it? Hell yeah. I'll take this extra turn off. For sure. Yeah, so my opponent wants to, like, get protection. Hit you for 8. Put you to 10. 4 cards? 5 cards. Got it. So my read on the situation is that my opponent goes for Omniscience, Omniscience, Omniscience? If I'm wrong, though, and they go for, like, a discard spell, my life could get awkward. If I'm right, though, I just get to counter the Show and Tell. That's fine. Okay, it is a discard spell. You may take a Thoughtseize. It's awkward that I don't have multiple black mana here, I guess. So I just Drown in the Lock this and counter it, kind of leave them guessing a little bit. Ancient Tomb is the unknown card. So now they can cast Show and Tell. And we'll see which one of their things they put in. I have it answered either way. They go for Atraxa. This is the stuff they reveal. Stunning Wish could get weird. Brainstorm, Show and Tell, Island. So I know all my opponent's cards. Land drop is cool, just like legitimately cool. Sacrifice a non-token creature, please. We'll get that out of the way. I'll hit my opponent for 8, and I leave up Otawara to bounce an Emrakul. We need to dodge my opponent hitting Omniscience, I suppose. That feels like the thing that would beat me. I'm just going to fetch in response. Go until resolves. Emrakul's in play. Opponent still has Brainstorm. Oyoyoyoyoyoyoing. You may Brainstorm. I didn't take a screenshot of your deck list, but I don't think you were playing like a Stifle. I don't know that you have a weird Cunning Wish out to this. Yep, we have gotten the GGs from our opponent. Yeah, I think my opponent needed to cast their Brainstorm prior to the show and tell to look for Omniscience to attempt to get that extra turn. And then I think the game is still on. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Just the best place to host your deck lists online, just full period. It is. And I can say lots of nice things about them, or I can just show you that I have 328 deck lists on this site, and I think that's about the best endorsement that I can give them. All right. I have had a snack. My opponent has mulliganed to 5 with their Yorion deck list. I hope we are not playing against beans. All right, cool. Taxes. Kind of just want to say no. My Force of Negation doesn't have a lot of targets. It actually might be that. I think I'm going to say no to this because I have so few answers to an Aether Vial, and my opponent has already mulliganed pretty deep. I think I am willing to make that trade under these circumstances. I can play this game on basics, potentially. This is Delta Pass. How dare you? How dare you? Stoneforge is fine. I have the Edict for that. So, there's sort of a cheeky decision that I get to make. I could... You know what? Never mind. Just never mind. Take Kaldra. Recruiter of the Guard and Solitude left in hand. Sure, that land drop means Recruiter is live, which is obviously very good here. And we'll just see how my opponent wants to approach this game. All right, they are a black build. You may take your 1 point of damage. The world is your oyster. What are you prioritizing? A Flicker Wisp is reasonable. Just getting another Stoneforge is very reasonable as well. That opens up drawing a land and just immediately putting in something like a Batterskull. All right, they're going for the Wisp. Sure. Duress isn't great right now. My Snapcaster Mage isn't great right now. My Edict, also not great right now. If my opponent doesn't draw a land, I can just play Vile Smasher the Fierce and keep them off of casting the Flicker Wisp for a turn cycle. But I might need to just brute force double Edict my way through this. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Which I imagine is just the Stoneforge Mystic here. That's the one that is like, oh, this works out better for me. Oh, no, no, you missed a point of damage. No. Yeah, I think my opponent went about, I don't know, maybe I'm biased by what I see in my hand, but this ends up being just super punishing for my opponent. Not the biggest fan of Gamble right now. All right. Fetch. Grab Mountain. Snapcaster Mage. Target Duress. Duress, target you. Take Batterskull. Flicker Wisp and Solitude are left. Actively good cards. Am I taking Gamble as a 50-50 here? I think so. I'm not a fan of doing so. But my deck's pretty volatile. And getting this is kind of a huge deal. K command would be pretty reasonable as well. Take the 50-50. Sicko shit up in here. Alright, land drop 4 for my opponent. They're not endangering Stoneforge in combat. They're at 14, or I'm at 14. Oh. Are you just holding up Caracas? Since I showed you a legendary creature? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, I might have gotten Trixie here. And Flicker Wisp the Flicker Wisp. And then Flicker Wisp the Flicker Wisp. To leave something out of play to play around something like this, which is probably the sort of thing that I would have just tutored for. Really awkward that I don't have black right now. I can take that Lion Sash. I think it's too much damage to take another 6 from Flicker Wisp. Alright. Knock in 2 points of damage. Deluge for 2. Undo a lot of work. Inquisition is stuck in my hand. Sometimes my opponent doesn't play Lion Sash this turn. But I think my opponent is very likely to just jam that card. And they can eat 3 things out of my graveyard. I think they're supposed to do it at sorcery speed. I'm just holding up Brazen Borrower for Lion Sash here. Oh, fuck. No, I am an idiot. Sure. No, I am supposed to Brazen Borrower it back to hand and then Inquisition it. Just a bit of a weird line. Thought immediately. Fingers did not get back to the buttons fast enough. Yeah, bit of a blunder on my part. I have to take a decent amount of damage to undo that. Oh well. So now we play chicken with my opponent for how much damage this Lion Sash does. Yep. Alright, so now I've got priority. Do I just bounce it? 6 damage is a lot. Let's just bounce it. And I hope my opponent puts their Yori into hand this turn, rather than replays this. Nope. Oh, I will put Lutri to hand and pass. I might lose this one for that mistake I made. Like, scales are not tipping in my favor here. All it takes is one sweet draw of a spell with Lutri, though. And I'm back in it. Alright, we're going to see some activations. Sure. I imagine this is it, and then you put Yori into hand, but I don't know their hand to say for sure. Oh, we're going deeper? Much deeper, sure. Alright, that hurts. Baleful Strix. Not bad, but not enough here. Faerie Mastermind. Not great. Okay. We are potentially in shameful play territory. Yeah, Inquisition not being Thoughtseize was a really big deal in this turn cycle because it couldn't take the Solitude. Legend Rule a Caracas. A Skyclave occurs. So if my opponent's unknown card is white, I am dead. Because I need to chump block here to stay alive. And my opponent could Solitude and then eat something from the graveyard to grow Lion Sash. Not dead. In terrible shape, but technically am okay if I draw a removal spell that I can copy with Lutri. It's not a removal spell that I can copy with Lutri. At this point, I think, like, I could play Lutri to chump block for another turn, but I think once this is gone, I don't have the card advantage needed to get over the hump. So if I take the Lion Sash with Inquisition, I am instead staring down a Solitude, and then, like, Yorion gets involved slightly later. I think I'm still not favored to win this one. I don't have an engine, right? Like, I don't have the Yorion engine, I don't have the Bean engine, I don't have the Monarch engine of 4th Airlingas, and I am missing the fuck out of that right now. Staticaster in, Plague Engineer in, Lily Massacre in, Spell Snare in, Flusterstorm out, Spell Pierce out. Gamble got lucky this time. Gate potentially out. File Smasher the Fierce being legendary sucks. So does Kess being legendary. So does my Otter being legendary. Alright, we'll win this game with 1 Murktide Regent. Understood. This is 61. I could get rid of something like Minor Misstep that is a little bit narrow. I could Blood Sun. It feels awkward to do so. This is fine. It plays an early-ish Murktide Regent and attempts to punch a reasonable hole in my opponent's hand. Yeah. It do be like that sometimes, though, don't it? So, Hymn to Turok is kind of nice. I can do some damage here. I will fetch an Underground Sea and attempt to do something kind of gross. Bowmaster's Solitude. We've done a really good job of putting Bowmasters in the graveyard for Extraction Specialist. Specialist was like the card from that hand that I wanted to hit. So basically, F's in chat. It's very frustrating for me that my opponent played that around Spell Snare, but I fully believe that it was correct to do so. It's more realistically playing around something like a Brainstorm. Yeah, now my hand just doesn't line up well versus what my opponent is doing. I'm going to play a 5/5 Murktide Regent. It's outside of range of this. My opponent doesn't currently have removal. All right. Plan acquired. This has to be blue. I get extra black. No, I'm going to get extra red mana. 5/5. There's that. Yeah, this may be a time that I'm just like straight up playing Brazen Borrower as a 3-power creature, assuming that Bowmasters comes down first, or assuming that I can hold up Spell Snare to counter it. I guess Extraction Specialist is just the play this turn, though. Oh, it's Yorion. Sure. Actively happy with that. I think my opponent missed damage, though, right? Like, if they attack with their 1/1s, I literally cannot block it, because then Aganjo beats me. So I think my opponent missed 2 points of damage there. All right. So let's swing in for 5. And we're holding up Spell Snare and Brazen Borrower. Okay. It's a Recruiter of the Guard, which does not get Spell Snared. So what is this doing? Finding Solitude? And this is an opponent controls. I can't blink my Murktide. I don't understand what the slowdown is. Solitude seems so easy to me. Okay, Stoneforge. I don't quite understand the logic. I will go to 15. I'm going to take that hit, and we are going to just get in some points of damage with Brazen Borrower. We are trying to aggro down this game before my opponent can take things over. Force of Will would probably be my best draw. Baleful Strix is not bad. It sure isn't good, because Bowmasters. Probably can't play it with the onboard Bowmasters. All right. Attack for 8. Oh man, do you already have the Solitude? It's so bad if that was one of the natural draws. All right, opponent is at 5. So this now feels like play out Grim Lavamancer. I don't have cards in graveyard for that yet. I'm hoping my opponent takes care of that for me. I think I don't play Strix, and I hope that Spell Snare does some work. There's land 5. Is Solitude happening? Yeah, you can do your attacking first. No blocks here. Yep. I'm at 12. Extraction Specialist returns Bowmasters. That's fine. Bowmasters pings that. One unknown card. I guess it can be Swords to Plowshares now. It's Solitude. Evoked. Rough. So that takes out Murktide. That means I can Grim Lavamancer shoot. Or no, that's going to exile. JK. All right, how am I winning this? How am I winning this? I see a line, but it involves my opponent making a mistake. I need them to cast a pre-combat 2-drop, which they did not do. So I'm going to eat all this damage in an attempt to keep Grim Lavamancer alive for a little while longer. Does unfortunately bring them up. I wanted them to cast a pre-combat 2-drop so I could Spell Snare it. Right, and they're just chilling. My Grim Lavamancer is awkward. My Snapcaster is awkward. My Strix is awkward. That doesn't really help. Otter doesn't really help. At this point, I think things have shifted enough that I can go ahead and concede. GG's. All right, my initial hand has no mana. My second hand has mana. We're going to keep this, getting rid of the gamble. Blooded Strand. Delver? Delver. So I can play this game off of basics relatively easily. So I am probably just going to fetch around my opponent randomly playing a Stifle here. Grab a Swamp. Pass the turn, I think. I'm probably going to cast Cling to Dust. I'd rather hit something other than a land, like a permanent type other than land. 1 damage is no big deal. Grixis Delver. Alright, if you're not going to give me other targets, like, I'll eat. Cool. Did not get punished by something like Bowmasters. Ooh. If you have a Bowmasters, you respond to Cling to Dust, right? Feels like yes. I don't really want to Sheoldred's Edict into a Daze here, either. So I think I am gonna play the Lava Man this turn. And if my opponent next leveled me by not playing the Bowmasters, so be it. Okay, they did have the Bowmasters. Okay. It's fine. Like, I can now Sheoldred's Edict, Snapcaster Mage, Sheoldred's Edict over the course of a couple of turns and use that to control the board. I'm in an okay situation. Hold on, my deck doesn't have a Bowmasters in it, does it? That's almost certainly a deck building mistake. Where is my Toxic Deluge? Toxic Deluge for X's 1 is the tastiest thing in the world right now. Kess. Big booty Kess. Okay. I am going to cast this right now so my opponent can't hard cast Force of Negation, I think. No, I would be fine with them using their mana to do that rather than cantripping a bunch of times. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. 1 Dragon Rage Channeler down. I'll take 3 and go to 11. I am a little scared. Not super scared, but ever so slightly spooked. God, that's so many creatures. Like we're trying to get through all of this stuff, ultimately. I could gamble for the Deluge. I don't think I'm doing that. Let's fetch. I can get more basics. Do like an island. I want blue for potential Murktide Regent in a little while. I think I sorcery speed do this so that if Snapcaster Mage is Force of Willed, I can gamble for another card to set up my following turn. Sacrifice a non-token creature, please. Alright, 2 Dragon Rage Channelers gone. The unfortunate part about doing this at sorcery speed is that if my opponent just has another Orcish Bowmasters, they get to add 2 more power to the board and get my blocker out of the way. I'm having a little bit of trouble reading what my opponent has in hand because they don't have cantrips. I have given them okay cards to counter. It's possible they still have some counterspell that they're just not willing to do. They could have cards like Murktide Regent that are just not currently castable. Don't have the best read of the situation. Just the Orc Army token. Am I trading? It probably doesn't hold this back next turn, because any instant or sorcery turns this, but like, my opponent doesn't have that. I think I am just trading. If I win this game, it is through some nonsense. It's another land drop. Murktide Regent, sure. Gamble for Toxic Deluge for 3 is super attractive right now. Playing Kess is not bad either. Kess dodges Lightning Bolt. Either line gets caught by Daze, which is a card that my opponent might reasonably have. The gamble line gets caught by things like Force of Negation instead. I think I'm going to go for the Gamble Deluge line. It's very good if it works right now. Taking a quick look at other stuff here. No, I think I like it. If I had another mana, like, I would not be taking this line. I would be Thought Seizing first, but I don't think I can take another 5 damage and expect this to work, especially since, you know... Oh, shit. Okay, cool. Yeah, opponent might have just flooded out then. Just handful of lands. Maybe there's a wasteland they didn't play out yet or something. Sure. Yeah, that must have been their draw for turn. They would have cast that last turn to get in more points of damage with Dragon Rage Channeler. Follow up Brainstorm. The Ponder doesn't shuffle, so our opponent liked something from there. It, I guess, could have been the Brainstorm. It is a Delver. That's currently fine. That's not that threatening. I believe it is worth 2 life to Thoughtseize prior to casting Kess. The margins on this game are really tight, so it's possible I'm wrong. Unholy Heat and Orcish Bowmasters. Opponent does have Delirium with Misty Rainforest. Okay. Take Unholy Heat. The Bowmasters are scary. If the Delver blind flips, it's like legitimately annoying. The Delver doesn't blind flip, I think I'm okay. Because the Delver blind flipping means that I can't block. Or I guess it's not a blind flip, right? There was a Brainstorm? Okay. Unsure if error. Is that Delver attacking? That Delver's not attacking. Cool, cool, cool. Love this for me. So I can cast an instant or sorcery from my graveyard. So for 1 life, I can Toxic Deluge away this Delver. Bowmasters is slightly more important right now, though. Man, Bowmasters is awkward. Okay, I think I pass turn, or at least make it look like I'm passing turn, and then see if my opponent will play end of turn Bowmasters, in which case I have some things that I would like to do. Okay, they do. So I respond to this. I'm going to cast this with Escape, targeting one of, let's say my opponent's sorcery here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Exile land, land, Lava Boy, land, Palantir. Done. Draw a card while Bowmasters is still on the stack. Get a Spell Pierce. Not the best. Then I will cast this with Kess instead. Just targeting some other card. Paying the black to do so. To just get a new card. Why the fuck didn't you respond to the first one? Okay. I am upset. Sure. Alright. I get pinged another time here. Go to 3. That's so upsetting. This ping puts me to 2 and then I'm dead. Yep. That's very frustrating. Like my opponent, whatever. We lost to it anyway. Spellbomb's okay. Static Caster's okay. Red Elemental Blast is okay. Plague Engineer's okay. Liliana's fine. Massacre as a 4-mana spell is not crazy person time, but I don't know that I'm excited about it. Not the biggest dress down fan here. I don't think I want to be Stifling versus Delver most of the time. I think I usually don't want to go down a card to gamble just in this deck, period, full stop. What are the modes on this? This is a bad removal spell here, I think. Dak Faden's not great with a bunch of Bowmasters around. This gets us back to 60. Let's sort this and reevaluate. I wouldn't be a crazy person to play Blood Moon, because I do in theory want to play this game on basics. And having a button that can steal the game and shut off Murktide Regents is kind of a huge deal. I hate that I have so many X1s in this deck with like Lavamancer, Baleful Strix, Faerie Mastermind. Go Lavamancer out for Blood Moon in. Board in Blood Moon, have hand with 2 non-basics. Perfect. Hand's very slow. It has mana. It's wastelandable mana. Do I just keep this and believe in the deck? Hard for me to keep this and believe in the deck because I don't believe in the deck, folks. I don't believe. I'm going to keep this and Spell Pierce the ever-loving shit out of a turn 1 Ponder. And I think if I'm intending on aggressively Spell Piercing, then I lead on Underground Sea, which is wastelandable. But I don't want to give up the possibility of drawing a cantrip and then being able to filter. Maybe that's wrong since I have so few cantrips, like I'm not just on, 8 total copies of Brainstorm and Ponder. Classic. Classic Spell Pierce being good. Ah! Sure. We'll make a land drop and pass. It's kind of the nightmare if my opponent just holds up Orcish Bowmasters. Oh, and the blind flip to Force of Will. Brutal. I'm eating 3. Take your lightning bolt, Mr. Delver. Sure. Just play a spell. Just play a spell. I'm counterspelling that to use my mana, not because I'm happy about counterspelling this card. Sure. Alright, so I know my opponent has Force of Will. I would be happy trading Force of Will for Culligan's Command plus one other card. Like, I'm good with that. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, let's try to do this. Cast. You discard a card, deal 2 damage to a target. Discard a card, 2 damage. Let's see if we can do that classic Grixis 2-for-1 thing here. Obviously very bad versus a Daze. But the dream is this gets Force of Willed. I take 3 more damage. My opponent plays out another creature. I get a clean 2-for-1 with Toxic Deluge while also holding up Spell Pierce. That's the world that I want to live in. But in this world, Orcish Bowmasters is a complete asshole, and Flash is good. Damn it. Alright. Do I take 3 more damage to try to get an Orcish Bowmasters in this as well? 3 damage is a lot when I'm also paying 2 life to cast this. Yeah, like 6. Try to play around Bowmasters by waiting. No Bowmasters played. Frustrating. I've just had 0 ability to read what this opponent has in hand. Do I, like, Otawara this and just treat it as a save 3 life spell? Yes. A Volcanic Island for variety. Let's just take that out of play. Make it look like my situation is more desperate than it is. Maybe my opponent like Dragon Rage Channelers and Delvers then. Alright, there's a Ponder. There's the Delver again. Okay. Awkward Toxic Deluge is awkward. But gotta trade here. It's just very frustrating to like have one of this tool and have to use it for a 1-for-1 trade. New Delver. Spell Pierce and Negate. Looking hot. Ugh. Deck, please. I am not asking for a lot, but like a removal spell next turn so I can attempt to live this Lutri dream of doing something relevant would really fucking go a long way. Alright, Spell Pierce that. Easy trade. I would not like this Delver to Lightning Bolt me. Okay, alright, something went right there. Negate not answering something like a Murktide Regent here or an Orcish Bowmasters is a really big deal. I'm at 11. Sure. That's not really a good draw here. Like, this Delver flips, and I am terrified. I don't outclock my opponent with Lutri. I will play the shit out of Otter Ambush Viper, given the opportunity. Alright, we're doing it. Otter Ambush Viper. Lightning Bolt. I will respond. Fetch. Don't I respect that Blood Moon, I guess? Get Swamp. Negate a Lightning Bolt. That's good enough for a Force of Will. Pitching a Daze. Sure. Take 1 from Delver. Yep. Your last card, Murktide Regent. I'm upset if that is the case. No Mystic Sanctuary in the mana base. Is it Dragon Rage Channeler? Alright. Something! No! Have I used my Brainstorm this game? I have not used my Brainstorm this game, so I'll hold this. But I'm just dead in 2 turns, almost no matter what here. Delver blind flips to Lightning Bolt. So I take 6. My opponent should Lightning Bolt me in my upkeep. And that pretty much just ends the game. Alright, they Surveil. But my opponent has 2 lethal threats in play, so I don't think I get out of this. We force it. But even if I draw something like a Baleful Strix, it doesn't quite get there. Yeah, like I can Lightning Bolt one of these, and I'm dead to the other. That is a frustrating way to go out, but we still do 2-3 the league. All right, so the Otter did not do a lot this league. I believe we copied a lightning bolt, which was neat. The surgical extraction play was clutch versus the storm combo deck list. Like, that was really cool, being able to rip all 8 tutors out of my opponent's deck simultaneously. That felt powerful. Otherwise, it felt like the deck building cost of the Otter here was very high. I'd say 2 of our losses were close and potentially winnable with some slightly different draws. But that first round versus 4-color control, where my opponent had an actual engine, no way in hell I'm winning that matchup. Let's take a last look at the deck list. I have some thoughts. The biggest thing that I feel is that this deck has no engine. Lutri isn't an engine. I don't have any real way of consistently drawing extra cards. And some of these sources of card advantage that are in my deck are a little bit inconsistent in terms of working. I think the fact that the deck has a large number of creatures that are X1s is a huge strike against it. Orcish Bowmasters is the most played the most played creature in the format at, I don't know, like 38-40% somewhere in there of the format playing it. And when you couple that with the fact that a bunch of your threats are actually legendary and are Karakas-able, this deck doesn't end games well unless you draw the Murktide Regent. And since a bunch of your cards are slightly situational, you have less ability to sculpt your opening hand because you don't have just like 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, maybe some Preordains on top of that to sculpt those early turns. If I was going to play something like this again, and I think this is just close to strictly worse than just playing a more consistent Grixis Control deck list. But if I were going to play this again, I would want my own Orcish Bowmasters in here. And then I would want some other sources of card advantage, some planeswalkers or something, some artifacts, just something to draw me some extra cards. Because I could not keep up with my opponents who are doing like Yori and stuff, Recruiter of the Guard stuff. I just couldn't keep up. And then, I don't remember which ones I said. And then I don't want as many X1 bodies. I want some alternative finishers, Shouldered the Apocalypse, something like that. I just want a couple of big booty things that I can throw in play and they don't just die to Lightning Bolt. As a secondary issue here, since there's so few creatures in this deck list, like this deck list has 10 creatures, that means that your opponent who has been holding a Swords to Plowshares or a Leyline Binding or whatever all game, when you finally draw one of your threats, they have just been given their first target for it, meaning that your first threat just always goes down. So this deck played well, I think, despite being just worse than the decks that my opponent were playing. So I think this is a cool idea, but both poor execution of the idea and the idea is less powerful than the average Legacy deck. But if you have other thoughts about it, let me know down in the comments below. If you need any of these Magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!